Hello and welcome to the Heart of Leadership with yours truly, Madre Burkle. And today with me is Dr. Sandra Efu, the President and CEO of Keyano College in Fort McMurray, Alberta. Sandra is a seasoned project management professional with a PhD in higher education, research, evaluation, and enhancement. And she brings a wealth of experience working across Africa, the Americas, and the Caribbean, where she has coordinated large projects with international financial institutions, such as the Inter-American Development Bank, and led global mobility initiatives for faculty, staff, and students. With a very strong academic foundation and a passion for education, as a catalyst for global economic development, Sandra is deeply committed to fostering people-centered leadership. In an era where human element in organizations is increasingly overlooked, particularly in North America, Sandra advocates for leadership that prioritizes the holistic development, well-being, and empowerment of individuals. She believes that truly impactful leadership must emphasize inclusivity, support talent development, and actively engage with diverse perspectives and the needs of today's workforce. Welcome, Sandra, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I want to jump in with a question. Looking back over your career, what moment awakened you to people-centered leadership as not just a concept, but a calling?
Mm. Well, that's a really good question. And I don't know that there was one lightning bolt moment, right? I think it was a series of experiences. Ultimately, we are a collection of our lived experiences. But I think for me, it was my experience, particularly with student services and working with, staff, employees over COVID. The pandemic was so impactful in so many ways. But when you think back and having to support students and employees who were all facing overwhelming mental health challenges, and just seeing how small acts of empathy could really change someone's trajectory really reminded me that leadership isn't about titles or plans. It's really about presence, right? And so I just realized then that, people-centered leadership wasn't just the right approach, but if we're being honest, it is the only approach, and it certainly aligns with my values and purpose as a leader.
I love that you said it, that it's about presence. So tell me more about that.
Well, I think when we interact with people, there's always, story or something lurking that people just want to be able to share and feel heard or seen. But you have to be present. You have to be present to hear them, to see them. And so, for me, I know as a leader, I do take the time to try and be truly present. It's less about you as a leader and more about the people that you're serving. And so just being present to truly get to know people, to hear their stories, and ultimately see how you can be of service, I think is really important.
Wow, I think you just summed it up so absolutely beautiful. So, in a world where there's so much going on, there's so many changes, there's so many pressures, there's so much development in AI that's kind of potentially shifting the way that we're working. And how do leaders stay present?
Well, I think we all have to identify and really think for ourselves, what keeps us motivated, what keeps us excited about showing up, and taking the time to sort of have those moments of reflection. It's really important in keeping us grounded. And so I would say finding space within each day, within each week, each month to stay grounded, I would say is really important. I think another one is, having a strong circle, a strong network of individuals that help fill our cup, that positive energy. I always say to folks that there's enough bad news to go around. We don't need to be reminded of that every second of every day. Surround yourself with individuals that see the positive in the day to day, and let that be your driving force. Let that motivate you to keep showing up, right? So that would be my recommendation.
That is really, really cool. Thank you. Yeah, staying grounded and taking space for yourself because
Hmm.
you've got to fill your own cup before you can be present and fill other people's cups and bring
Precisely.
more positivity into them. That's really very, very great. Thank you. So I do have a challenging question for you. In an academic or an expert-driven environment, ego and telling can dominate and normally does. There's a lot of ego in a lot of academic institutions, and you're making a shift. What's helping you shift towards coaching over directing and looking at a people-centered approach rather than uh, I'm really cool type of approach?
Right. No, that's a great question, and certainly challenging, as you've mentioned.
Mm.
As someone who started in the classroom, I've lived that expert mindset, right? There's that perception that as a faculty member, you're the expert and you're telling learners, right? What the facts are. But I think the turning point was when I stepped into leadership roles and realized that ultimately, sustainable success doesn't come from telling, it comes from trusting. And, coaching emerged as a more powerful tool when I started to see how empowered people felt, people became when they found their own answers, they found their own voice. But the resistance, it often comes from those who equate coaching with passivity. And certainly for me, I counter that by showing that coaching isn't soft, it's strategic and certainly sustainable. Help people find their voice, and ultimately, there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's ultimately what coaches do every single day is help people
Right.
find their voice, find the confidence that they do have what it's taking, what it will take to move forward
Presence.
and overcome their hurdles. That's really great. Um, how do you stretch people without breaking them?
Oh, that's another one, another really good question. I'm a strengths-based leader. So I would say I stretch people by anchoring them in their strengths, and offering stretch assignments that align with their strengths and their goals. And so I do set high expectations. I expect a lot from my team, but I pair that with a lot of support. It's not enough to say to people you believed in them and to push them without ensuring that they have the necessary supports to be successful. I think people feel valued when they know that one sees their potential. They feel accountable when they know that their leaders trust them to meet those assignments, and that I will hold them accountable. I don't forget. My team often says, "Man, you never forget." I said, "Yes, I don't. I don't forget. I will
Yeah.
always check in and follow up and provide that support. But the key is ultimately balance, right?
Yeah.
So providing that care without coddling, challenging folks without pressuring them. And so it is a bit of a balancing act. But I would say that for me, that's how I I stretch people. Yeah, it's just anchoring them in their strengths and offering stretch assignments.
I love the concept of caring without coddling.
Yes, yes. I think
Why?
sometimes we mistake the two.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, as women, we're female leaders, and we mistake caring and coddling with bringing motherhood into the business, and your team members are not your children.
Right. Precisely.
So
They're adults. They can take care of themselves.
they can take care of themselves. They can think for themselves too. And
Hmm.
if you treat people like adults, they will stay adults. But if you treat them like children, that's what you're going to get.
Precisely.
That's it,
Precisely.
caring without coddling, and keep the challenge and the accountability in there. So to be able to stretch people in their areas of strength, you have to know your team pretty well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's taking the time to know them for who they are.
Mm.
As a leader, I don't have a one size fits all approach. I take the time to learn people's strengths, to learn their blind spots as well.
Mm.
And ultimately, through that awareness and understanding, help them be their best self. There are a few tools out there that certainly one can use to learn more about the strengths of their team members. There's the Gallup Strengths, for example. That's a very popular one.
Yeah, yes.
But a simple exercise like that, right, just gives you a lot of useful information that can help you support your team and just help them be successful. Because when they are successful, as a leader, then you are successful as well.
It's true. That's that is a very strong insight that I think is often overlooked. The more successful your team members are, the more successful you are. So pouring into their success is slightly altruistic and eventually, but it is strategic because it fosters success right through the organization.
Precisely.
Yeah,
Precisely.
that is really cool. So, can you tell us about a time maybe when empathy and compassion and not efficiency was the most important leadership skill that you used? I think I'm taking you back to your journey through COVID here.
That's right. I was gonna say that question, certainly COVID comes to mind. During the pandemic, we saw a significant increase in students and employees facing mental health challenges.
Mhm.
While systems were in place to help manage these situations, I think it became clear very quickly that what was most needed wasn't a faster process or a more efficient process.
Mhm.
It was a more human response. And I know for me, I shifted focus from, sort of the operational updates and processes to creating a dedicated support, system that put people at the center. And so sometimes I had to even source for funding to provide some of those additional supports to help address the immediate needs as a result of COVID. But I think by leading with empathy and taking more of a trauma-informed approach, I was able to work with the team, and certainly the team played a huge role in this, in building deeper trust. And trust ultimately, leads people to better outcomes, right? Not only in the case of post-secondary for students, but also the team, right? Overall is supporting them.
Yeah. And that level of that approach would foster a very strong environment of psychological safety
Mhm.
where they can bring everything to the table that needs to be put on the table at any time.
Precisely. Absolutely. People do want to feel safe. They want to feel that they can, come to you as a leader with their concerns, no matter what it is, that they won't be judged necessarily. and that ultimately that they have a leader that will be there to support them through any challenges.
Yeah, that would be really great. That almost brings me to that Gallup survey or study that recently came up about everybody wants hope. Well, hope is the biggest thing. Then trust, compassion, and then stability. And as we're thinking about how to bring that stability in, but the way that you're speaking about leading your team with compassion, with understanding, with not there's not a one size fit all. It's an individual approach. And you're taking a lot of time into understanding your team as individuals. That approach could bring a lot of stability in a volatile world, um, because it's a relationship that's stable in the face of volatility. What are your thoughts about that?
No, I agree completely. Hope in a lot of ways keeps people inspired, motivated to continue to show up and, fight the good fight, right?
Yeah,
Quote and unquote. And as a leader, I think it is our responsibility to keep hope alive, to to really help our teams continue to be inspired, feel inspired every single day. And hope is a real driver of that. So I certainly see that within the workplace here at the institution, but also in the community, because I also serve and support a lot of different
yeah,
boards and community groups, and it's present there as well. And so I truly believe in a hope-centered leadership and keeping folks looking forward, looking ahead, and being hopeful that tomorrow ultimately will be better than today,
yeah.
right? So no, I agree completely.
Awesome. Thank you. So, what part of leading from the heart and being a people centered leader still feels hard for you today?
Oh, that's a good question. Whew. I think for me, it's holding space without stepping into it, right? As someone driven by results and, I'm naturally inclined to take initiative. It's not always easy to resist the urge to solve or to steer the ship, right? But I think leading from the heart often means quieting that instinct and trusting others to find their way. Even when it's not how I will do it,
Yeah.
I'm certainly learning that true empowerment requires resistance, restraint, patience, and the courage to let growth unfold on someone else's timeline. And to do that, you'd have to trust your team. And so that trust, I think, is key. Restraint, I think, is key. And so for me, I think those are the pieces that are hard, but I would say I'm getting better at it for sure.
It is often so much easier. It's like, I'm going to save myself 5 hours here if I just tell them what to do, right?
Precisely. Or if I just do it myself.
If I do it myself, yes. Let me save everybody some time.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Let's give them the space to and have the confidence and the trust that they can do this.
Precisely,
And
precisely.
also sometimes the humility that our answers are not always the best answers because they see it from where they are right now and they probably in the trenches with that problem.
Precisely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it just like I said, just, giving people that space, right? And so, yeah, I'm an activator. I like to get things started and to
Fine.
to map it out, plan it out. So, it
Yeah.
is tough. It is tough to sort of take a step back, but it's so crucial to do it though.
Mhm. Mhm. Great. Thank you. Um, when did leading people last surprise you? Because I mean, people are dynamic and they surprise you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll say not long ago. We had I think it was a planning session, and someone within the group who usually just stays in the background, you know, they take a back seat. But in this one instance, they shared an idea that completely reframed our approach as a team. And it wasn't just insightful, but I think it was truly transformative. In that moment, I, as a leader, was reminded that leadership is less about speaking and more about listening. And sometimes the best idea can come from the person you least expect. But
Mm.
if you give them space to speak, to share their thoughts, that's the only way that you're going to get those transformative ideas, right? And so the real surprise for me was just how much brilliance can surface when we create that space for everyone to voice their opinions and not just letting sort of the loud few take over, right? And so it just reinforced for me that inclusion isn't just a value, it's a leadership strategy.
And also a skill, because I meant in facilitating a meeting like that to get the loud ones to make space and the quiet ones to pipe up is sometimes very difficult. What do you do to draw the quiet ones back into the meeting?
Yeah, no, it certainly requires very strong facilitation skills. It's as one who would facilitate these really crucial meetings. It's taking the time to pace the meeting and the conversations, and to step in when needed to, encourage the loud ones to maybe take a step back and nudge the quiet ones to maybe take a step forward
Yeah.
to share some of their ideas. So it's facilitating the conversations and being aware of who's spoken, who hasn't spoken, and letting them know that it is a safe space for
Mm.
them to share their insights.
Oh, that's awesome. Letting them know that it's safe to speak up and we want to hear from you. That's really great.
Mhm.
So, what legacy are you hoping your leadership leaves behind, especially for the people that you've mentored?
Oh, legacy.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I do hope that people say I made them feel possible, that I saw their potential before they did, that I led with clarity, compassion, and courage. I think for a top-down leader, I would offer a few thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Around that the mindset shifts. I think the first one would be, moving from control to collaboration. Power isn't lost when it's shared. I think it multiplies. The other piece I would say then is from knowing to learning, right? And so as a leader, curiosity certainly is more powerful than expertise.
Mhm.
And then I would say from outcomes to experiences. How do people feel when they're in your presence as a leader?
Mhm.
And so you want folks that when they're around you to feel heard, to feel supported. And so for me, I think that's the outcome that one should strive for as a leader. So just a few thoughts for folks, I think, as they think about,
Moving.
leadership and supporting their teams.
Yeah. I made people feel possible when I just love that. I'm probably going to make that the feature sentence here because whenever we facilitate with a group, we start with, I mean, think about the best leader you've ever had in your history. And it's always somebody that made you feel possible. It's what people remember. They remember that experience so vividly. The wording might be completely different, but that is truly what they treasure and what they respect and what they want from leadership. So that's great. And thank you for the mindset shifts. That is definitely something that we're always looking for people. So my final question here, Sandra, this has been so great and so rich. I really appreciate that. What are you reading or listening to that keeps you challenged and inspired as a leader at the moment?
Oh, I love this question. So before I chime in here, I will say as leaders, we need to read, we need to, keep learning and educating ourselves. There's a lot of knowledge hidden in history as well. So just learn from other people's experiences. And so for me, I would say I've been deeply inspired by the book Better by Atul Gawande. And he really talks about performance, diligence, and the drive to make systems that truly serve people. And so for me, that resonates deeply because as a leader in post-secondary, it's a reminder that excellence isn't about perfection necessarily. It's more about the relentless pursuit for improvement, leaving the world better than when we encountered it. I also revisit, I can't help but give more than one book, so forgive me. I love reading.
Go for
And
it.
also, I also revisit Multipliers, the book Multipliers by Lise Wiseman.
Yes,
It's a powerful reminder that leaders can either amplify or diminish the intelligence around them. And certainly as a leader, I choose to amplify. Um, we need we need more leaders, right? Because I think the world has a lot of challenges ahead of it. And so we need strong, resilient, courageous leaders to help us get through it.
that is really cool. I love multipliers. It's such an awakening concept, and there's so many habits in there that base it that I use it in some of our development work. And leaders like, oh no, not that. That can't be a diminisher. I thought it was one of my strengths. It's like, think about it. Think
Right.
harder on the receiving side of that. So this is great. Sandra, any final words of wisdom from you? Your favorite leadership quote? It's just been such a pleasure having this conversation with you.
No, thank you for having me. I think leadership is a journey. As I said earlier, I challenge folks to just keep showing up with the right attitude and to put people at the center of all that they do. I think ultimately it's about people. And so, let's continue to come together to strive for a better world and to challenge each other in a safe and supportive manner, to be our best selves. But thank you. Thank you for the chance to connect, to share. And yeah, it's been equally filling of my cup, at least. So thank you.
Wonderful. And to our audience, that is a wrap.